Peace, family. So today I just want to talk about something that has kind of been on my mind for a really long time. Uh, but yesterday I apparently Joshua Maponga had posted something pretty much stating how I feel about it. It's an issue of birthright citizenship for African diaspora, right? And it's a big issue. Like, in my opinion, it shouldn't be that as an African diaspora descendant of Africa, it shouldn't be that I'm obligated to live in the West or in America where I'm at, right? And have the option, if I can afford to live in Africa. It should be the other way around. It should be that I have the birthright of living in Africa, but if I want to live in America, I should have the option, right? And same for my children. If I want to stay in America, I should have the option to stay in America, to have children here, right? But I should have a birthright to the continent of Africa, minimally within West Africa, right? So, where I know I definitely have proof that, at least, a good majority of my ancestors come from West Africa, right? Or a good significant portion, West and Central Africa, right? Okay, so I'm sending this kind of specifically to Mahama and Ghana's government, but also to, African governments in general. I think it's very imperative. Even Israel, right? Israel is not really, technically, it's a fact, in my opinion, but it's a fact, right? Yeah, Israel, it has what they call birthright citizenship, right? Even on stolen land, they allow their population, their descendants, right? Anybody that has Jewish ancestry is allowed to go to the land, plot of land that they stole, to have birthright citizenship, right? They can come back to the land. They have all kind of programs they run. They'll teach you how to farm. I think maybe like a couple weeks long. But like it's a birthright that you can actually go back to the land, put your feet on the land, touch the land, and connect the land with the culture, everything. Right? It's a birthright, and the fact that Africans have not figured out a way to do that for the diaspora already is pretty sad. And also without, visa restrictions, without having to pay a visa, without having checking your funds in your account, all that extra bullshit, should just be automatic. And I'm not quite sure how they fund it, but it does get funded, right? So in Israel, it is funded. I know they're partially subsidized by the United States government, like a good few billion every year, quote unquote, defense, right? But, yeah, so it should be a way that African governments can, talk to each other, Western governments, and minimally for, birthright, type program to be funded by them, because they're the ones who extracted our ancestors from the land, right? Systematically. And yeah. All right. And finish it all off. So we have, I had this conversation with my sister and my parents at some point, maybe a couple of years back, about how they see themselves, like if they prefer to be called Black or African American, right? And they all said, they're kind of more identified with just being Black, right? And asked them why. Technically, the answers right now doesn't really matter, but my point was, like they really want to detach all the diaspora's connection to Africa. They don't want you to think of yourself as African. They want you to think of yourself as, Caribbean, Brazilian, Cuban, American, right? They want you to think of yourself as American, even without, with second class citizenship, right, or third or fourth class citizenship, right, or all these other groups are ahead of you in your own birth nation, right? They want you to think of yourself as American, but still, look like an African. You still have some African culture that's still attached to you. Some things you do, you just don't know that they're African, right? But they want you to be very much detached from Africa because that's where all the power is at. That's where all the resources are at. That's where our home base is at. So like China is beating the West and they're beating Japan, right? They're not beating the West because they decide that they're going to have the diaspora build America, right? Like they're beating the West because they built China, right? So China is the home base. Africa is our home base, right? And can't build America to beat America. You have to build Africa to beat America. You have to build Africa to beat UK, to beat France, to beat all these other parasitic nations like UAE, Saudi Arabia, all these other nations that are coming to stabilize Africa. All these people that put themselves in front of black people around the world, right, and have no respect for us and only see us as a slave class, right? The only way to get over that is to build our own shit in our own land, which is vast and has plenty of resources, right? So, right. Definitely want us to disconnect from that base and, but yeah, so having a birthright program, having birthright citizenship, like that, being able to, connect to the land as a diaspora will definitely get people to, perk up their, senses, right? And to think that, cause also asking my family, I was like, when you think about the resources in Africa, like, how do you see them? And like, they didn't see the resources as their own, right? So that's the other thing about being in the diaspora without birthright citizenship is that you don't even connect to seeing the resources that you own. You don't connect to seeing, we see the people, but not necessarily as our own. We see them as, a relative, but we don't see them as, like, we see them like maybe a cousin, right? But we don't see people on the continent as like our brother or our sister, like our immediate family. And the same goes with the actual land, the house. Like we don't see the land of Africa as home. We see it as, our neighbor's house maybe, or another house within the neighborhood or down the street, right? We don't connect with Africa because we don't have the deed to Africa, right? We don't have citizenship. We don't have a deed to, like, you know what I'm trying to say, right? So like, it's not necessarily ours, right? Because we're not legally entwined with it. That's what I'm trying to get to, right? So, I think that's pretty much all I had to say. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, all that good shit. And catch you in the next one.